All right, awesome. Well, thanks everybody for joining us today. Keller Williams Princeton, it's still August 5th. Today we're kicking off a new series on the 24 topics of the MREA, the Millionaire Real Estate Agent. If you don't already have a copy, it's the red book. So everybody here have a copy already? Lovis? Some other top producer borrowed it. Well, I got to get it back. John? Okay, John's going to get a copy. Tiffany and Brad. Brad has one, but he didn't bring with him. How about online? Everybody online got their books?
I saw a free PDF online.
Right. Well, Val, we can definitely get you a hard copy because I definitely recommend having a hard copy available. You can get the Audible book, but it works more like a textbook. So it's best to have a hard copy that you can reference because you're going to definitely want to highlight stuff, make notes and stuff, post things in there. But this is the slides we have today. I thought just to kind of kick things off, I'd like to talk a little bit about maybe just the history of the book. The story behind this book really started back in the 1980s, really in the beginning of Gary's career. Gary had a lot of like mastermind groups, just his own personal network of real estate professionals from around the country, people he met at conventions, NAR, things like Triple Play, whatever. And what Gary really did was started looking for doing the research on the systems and the models. And so through all these conversations with people over the years, 80s and 90s, things started coming together. And it wasn't really until maybe 2002, in the summer of 2002, when Gary convened a bunch of the top producers from the company and sat down that summer and actually started laying this out. So that was when the idea for the book was really conceived in the summer of 2002. It came out in the beginning of 2003, and which all of this was kind of coincide with my own personal story in real estate. I was licensed in that June of 2002, and I went to my first family reunion in 2003, and I didn't know a whole lot at the time. But MREA had just came out. So we all waited in line. It was only about 5,000 people at family reunion then. Now there's like 20,000, but we waited in line to get the book signed by Gary. So I got Gary Keller and one of his co-authors, Dave Jenks, to sign the book. I'm still missing Jay Papazon's signature, but if there's a chance I'm going to be in Austin, I'll take the book with me and get Jay to sign it. But really since then, it's the blueprints for how to build a career in real estate. It's a career blueprint. So there's a lot of different parts to it. And there's even a follow-up book called Shift that gives you even more, detailed strategies and tactics. But today for this series, we're going to cover the top 24 topics throughout the book. We're going to go from start to finish. There's a lot of different ways you could do this. There is a PowerPoint presentation that we're following. You can also find more information online on KW Connect. Let me just make sure everybody knows where that's at. So everybody knows how to get to Connect, right? Screen share should still be working. So on KW Connect, you can find the actual course. It's called MREA, the 24 topics. And you don't have to buy these resources. If you go to the materials tab, why is that not presenting? You can download the PDFs. If you search on Connect by MREA 24 topics. Actually, I'll put the link in the chat box. So there is a student manual to go along with this. You can follow along. We're not going to we're not going to be too strict about it. There's also a way to do this as a book club. So you can certainly read and follow along the schedule that we outlined in the event. Planner has the different topics, the 24 topics planned out over the next 2 months. So we're doing this on Thursdays at noon, every Thursday at noon for August and September, except for the 26th. We have Mega Camp that day. So there'll be breakout sessions and masterminds going on. And that night we have the KW Princeton 20-year celebration, which everybody's registered for, right?
Yes.
Awesome. So that's where to find the books resource. Another great resource is Keller Inc. So Keller Inc. is the publishing arm of Keller Williams, and you can find more there on all of the books, including MREA. And there's also this really cool resource tab at the top of Keller Inc. So if you click on that, it'll actually take you here where there's different free downloads, PDF downloads for the different books. So MREA, there's several things here. The figures downloads, all the figures in the book are pulled out. We'll look at some of those today. There's also a chart of accounts and a few other things here, economic model exercise and some different things. And you'll find other copies of these too on Connect. If you just do a search for some of these, the economic model exercise, for example, some of those things come from other courses, such as Business Planning Clinic in the fall with Gene Rivers. So let me put, I'll put that in the chat also. And if you're online today on Zoom, next time you're in the office, please let us know. We'll get you a copy of MREA. If you're not going to be able to make it to the office, we'll get a copy mailed out to you. So just reach out to me and let me know. I'm thinking about the way the book started, you know, Gary's always believed in the collective knowledge and wisdom of others. So he's constantly pulling together groups of people, new people, bringing in fresh ideas and concepts. So this book, while it was largely created by the efforts of Gary and KW University and with input from our top producers, you know, when they first put this together, they had a choice. They had a decision to make, whether or not to make this an internal document that only Keller Williams agents have access to, or should they share it with the industry? Well, ultimately, because of our belief system, right, the Y4C2Ts, mission, vision, values, beliefs, perspectives, we decided to pay it forward and put it out there for everybody. So the book was published and shared with everyone. We decided not to keep it as corporate secrets. So it's really out there for everyone, and anybody can use this, even our competitors. I love the quote in the beginning. The book is dedicated to the men and women whose hard work and entrepreneurial spirit place them squarely on the front lines of free enterprise. This book is dedicated to real estate agents everywhere. And I love the line, you know, squarely on the front lines of free enterprise. Personally, I can't think of a better example of what free enterprise could look like other than real estate. You know, such low barriers of entry in terms of education, qualifications, and just the unlimited potential of opportunities that you can have in real estate. So, and now being dedicated agents everywhere as KW expands globally, and you see the impact it's having on not only developed countries, but even undeveloped countries that don't even have the infrastructure for real estate and private land ownership. Keller Williams is actually helping to establish those things in those countries. So it's pretty exciting. And to see how, you know, it could take a person with a relatively low income in those countries and then start to give them and their families opportunities through real estate, just through the knowledge and the sharing of information that they have now, the access to things that they never had before is really, really incredible and heartwarming. Just to touch on the table of contents, kind of give you an idea how the book's laid out. There's 3 parts to the book. The first part's charting the course, and we're going to cover most of this today. Part 2 is the bigger section and goes through the 4 stages. So there's 4 stages to the millionaire real estate agent. The first one is to think. First stage is just thinking what it would be like mentally to be a producer at a high level, putting the things together needed to do it. And we'll talk about that. And the next stage is actually earning $1 million. So that's $1 million GCI. So that's doing enough volume in production, GCI of earning $1 million. That's the second stage. The third stage is net $1 million. So following our standard 30-30-40 model, your gross GCI is probably around 2.5, 2.6 million. At a 40% net income, that'll give you about $1 million net. And the last stage is actually receiving $1 million. So out of that net income, you got to still pay a lot of things, taxes, healthcare, and other things. Receiving $1 million means actually in your checking account. So the business, all things paid for, considered, is generating $1 million a year of income to you personally. The last stage, staying on top. So I think about this a lot, being, Keller Williams, when this book came out, we were the 7th largest real estate company in North America, maybe 40, 50,000 agents. And, coming to where we are today, so going from 7th to 1st, it's very different. When you're chasing everybody and you're the hunter, it's kind of maybe more fun, more exciting. But once you're out in front, now you're the biggest target. Everybody's gunning for you. Everybody's coming after you. So staying on top is a big part of it. And even in the top producers, like you'll see, they can build a business to get to a certain level, but maintaining it, sustaining it over long periods of time, that's the third piece of it. That's the challenge at that end. So any questions so far? Feel free to jump in. We can run this kind of like a mastermind. If you reflect on something, you have an aha, something you want to share, something that inspired you, just throw it out there. So 24 topics here. We're going to go through those. Those are actually laid out in the schedule that we have planned. So today we're going to go through the foundational models and the 6 myth understandings. Next week, we'll touch on think, the big why, value proposition, 80-20 rule. Take a look at the calendar. We have all those laid out. Again, the MREA is the blueprints for things. It's giving you the models and the layouts. You will want to take time to memorize certain things. There are certain pages, charts, figures that are going to be very relevant that you're going to go back to and refer to a lot. So feel free to bookmark those. Let me just touch on something else. What is MREA really about? Well, it starts, like I mentioned, with our belief system. So our mission is to build careers worth having, businesses worth owning, and lives worth living, right? They said the purpose of business is to fund the perfect life. MREA is one of the ways that we help to provide that pathway for agents here, or agents and staff and leadership at the office. MREA, we think of it as the blueprint to getting your business built. And then there's detailed plans and specifications inside of it as you go deeper for building that. This is a quote that you'll hear from Gary a lot: think big, aim high, act bold, and live large. Beginning of the book, he's really talking about mindset and thinking. When we look at the first beginnings of the models, there's this concept around models versus creativity. And this is where Gary first started looking at what are the models of a top millionaire real estate agent. And you'll see a lot of references in the book. Gary doesn't stand out apart from any of these people. He gives full credit to the contributors and the people who inspired him to make this book. Let me just give you a few of the names. It's all names that you would recognize otherwise. Let's see here. I will be referencing the book and turning to the book in here. Let's see. Except now I can't find that page. Well, take a look in the first few pages. You'll see the pictures of all the agents that are in there, pages 10 and 11. A lot of the names in here you may not recognize nowadays, but there's still some in the company. And a lot of the other inspirations that came from people, the professionals that we think of out there. Is there anybody here who references is there any other people in real estate that you look up to? Let's put it that way. Podcasts or anybody else that you're listening to? Who? Tom Ferry's a good one. Tom Ferry's definitely referenced in here. Brian Buffini in here. Yep. How about Floyd Wickman? Actually, I found it. It's on page 34. It's a little bit deeper than I thought. Brian Buffini, Tom Hopkins. Tom Hopkins is an interesting one. He wrote a couple books on mastering the art of sales. Floyd Wickman, Bill Barrett, Mike Ferry, Howard Brinton, even other business visionaries like Robert Kiyosaki, Michael Gerber, Mark Victor Hansen, All of these people have contributed to the book somehow. So what I'm trying to just say is that don't be misled. This is just, one guy, Gary, thinking up stuff. This is really a combination of collective knowledge of a lot of different people. The idea around the models, what he identified was that there has to be some kind of foundation, a repeatable foundation for your business, for any business really. And so what's documented here are the models. Now, the idea of creativity, putting creativity before models, creativity is fine. And we think creativity, ideas before results. But if you build a business just purely based upon your entrepreneurial spirit and what you can do individually, and you went back and you just started it from scratch and you built everything yourself, well, that's going to be pretty exhausting and tiring, right? You're better off just taking the models that we have that have been shared by others and now documented. Start with that first, build systems around that, build your day-to-day habits around that, really your schedule for time blocking and the lead gen activities that you need. Breaking through ceilings. So this is another interesting concept. When you're starting out, there is some things that will come easy to you and things that will happen without as much effort, but then there's going to be other things that you have to work on that's going to take more effort. And that's when it gets uncomfortable. So at first there might be natural ceilings of achievement. I can think of several agents in the office where, they went through the school here with us, they joined the office, and maybe within the first year or so, they capped at 3 million in their production volume, but then they plateaued. And so that's a natural ceiling of achievement. And then they were there for a couple of years, right, until something else happened. One good example is when we brought Bold back to the market center in the fourth quarter of 18. One agent I know in particular, she sort of hit that ceiling at 3 million. She went to Bold in the fourth quarter. What she got out of Bold that she didn't have before was models and systems. At the time, we were sort of teaching a little bit of a different curriculum. We weren't teaching Ignite and some of the fundamental things that we do in Ignite, like tracking your 410. So she got some systems and models out of Bold. And then the next thing she did later that year in 19 was to get a MAPS coach. So now she had systems, models, and accountability holding her to her goals. And in 9 months, her business went up 500%. She went from 3 million to 15 million in 9 months. Her listings taken volume was peaked at over 600%. And she's gone on beyond that. So that was a ceiling of achievement. She's probably banging on the next one now. But that's where the models and the systems can help you break through and move to the next level. It's not necessarily comfortable and it's not necessarily easy, but that's the idea of that. So adopting the right foundational models will definitely help accelerate that path. If you just try to do it yourself, it's definitely going to take longer. It's going to be a lot of trial and error and, failing along the way. Failing's okay. Failing forward's great. But if there's models and ways that are going to get you to your goal faster, then I would follow them. Professionally in my career, I've looked around and kind of reflecting on this too. I've been following models and systems my whole life. In fact, I love them. They help me to get to where I want to go faster. So we have them here in the MREA. And this is on page 39.
So would you say, Frank, like in terms of having the right or approved models, right? Having the models in place to run your business, would you say that coupling that with creativity once the models are in place would propel you even further?
Absolutely. And that's what the book does discuss. They discuss enhancing those systems and models with your own creative influences. There might be something unique to your business, something unique to your market where you do need to be a little inventive and creative. And we're going to actually touch on that too here in the next section with myth understandings. But again, the foundational models, we're really focusing on the 3 L's. Everybody know what the 3 L's are? Leads, listings, leverage, right? And do we know why we focus on them? So there's a couple things. Number one, leads. You're not going to go anywhere in this business without a robust, repeatable lead generation system. And this is for solo agents. So this is, we're not talking about teams or anything special to do. This is just you and your business having a systematic way of generating leads consistently over a long period of time. And there's people that we know already doing it. I know there's been a lot of people impressed with what Chris is doing on Facebook ads. What you have to really look at closer is he's been doing it for a year. So he's got a year's worth of Facebook ads and lead generation coming in now that is producing and spinning off and flying off the machine all of these leads. He's taken, the listings he wants, he's passing buyer leads on to other agents, but it's all because he built a consistent lead generation system. So that's where it all starts. You can't do anything else unless you have leads. You can come to as many classes. You can have the best listing presentation, the best buyer seller packages, but if you don't have any leads, all that stuff's kind of pointless, right? So leads is first. And why listings? Easier. How are they easier? Less time. What were you going to say, John?
Yeah.
Right, absolutely. So listings is our biggest lever, right? You can definitely manage more listings per month than you can buyers. You'll definitely hit a peak, a cap. I don't know what your experience is, 6 or 7 buyers in a month. How many can you actually keep up with and follow with and service on an active basis? 7 the max. How many listings do you think you could manage a month between appointments and scheduling, photog, and just those activities? How many? 3 times. I don't know the exact numbers, but that sounds pretty good to me. Obviously, we're in the business of selling houses. So if you don't have any houses to sell, that's the product, right? So we want to focus on listings. It's also a huge leverage for you personally on marketing side, right? This is marketing. This is your name sign out on the yards in the MLS. So it's kind of like a twofer. Not only do you have the listings and the inventory and the product to sell, but it's automatically marketing you because you're associated with every one of those properties. So that's good. How about leverage? What's an example of leverage? People.
It's easier to leverage listings to buyers. Buyers are easier.
I agree 100%. What other forms of leverage do we have?
Models of systems.
Sure. Yep. Plans and what's one more? The big T.
Tools.
Technology, tools. Yes. Technology. Our biggest tools these days is the technology, right? So again, solo agent just starting out. If you take a look at the technology that we have built in Command, it's built around an MREA process. It's built around, number one, your database with the whole aim of generating leads, right? Everything else follows on from after there as far as servicing the listings, buyers and sellers, things like that. So Command, using Command and being in it daily, I go in Command every day. It tells me what to do every day. I have enough tasks and reminders and follow-up opportunities and checklists, endless checklists, you know what I'm talking about, to follow up. So I'm using that every day. So those are the obvious pieces of leverage. People is going to be your biggest leverage. Having others to do things is definitely going to be the biggest leverage there. So hiring smart, hiring the right people, and there's more we can discuss on that, but people is going to be the biggest piece. Gary Keller said, there's a quote, he's made a lot of money by investing in real estate, but he's made far more investing in people. And I think that's kind of obvious. If you look at, what he probably owns in real estate versus $1 billion international company, I think people has definitely made the difference. Stephanie also adds to the chat that listings equals leads. So, it's kind of a circular thing right there, right? You're generating for leads to get listings, and those listings generate more leads. They generate not just more listings, but buyer leads as well. Thanks for that, Steph. Okay. So leads, of course, you must have clients. How many people you have in your database? John? Hundreds, right? How many, Emery, how many do you have in your database? 500. How many does Stephanie have in hers?
6,000.
Okay, 6,000. So those are all potential clients, right? And so we have to have clients. It also goes to the quality and the quantity of the database. So quality means having the right information. One of the biggest pieces of missing information for most clients is their home address. If you look at in command and you look at the stats, it's the biggest piece of missing information for most clients. We help them buy or sell a house, but we don't remember where. We don't know where they live. Sorry, I just think that's unfortunately funny. But that's the piece that we want to make sure we have. There's a lot that can be done around marketing to them specifically. Clients, they want specific information about their home and their neighborhood, subdivision, the township, whatever. So if you don't know where they live, you're not going to be able to really provide that service at a high level. So take a look at page 40 here. We'll flip back and forth a little bit in the book. Everybody has two jobs. Doesn't matter what you do. Doctors, lawyers, engineers, real estate professionals, you got two jobs, your main job and lead generation. So you have to learn how to lead generate. Find what works for you. We have processes, career visioning, other ways to help identify that. You'll find what works for you. Maybe you like phones. Maybe you like calling and talking. Maybe social media is your method. Maybe the neighborhoods where people live prefer postcards. So maybe that's how they want to communicate. Maybe it's their town, it's their monthly newsletters. Listings, leverage, all of that's there on those pages. Let's see here. Again, you're absolutely right. Tiffany, listings are high leverage, maximum earning opportunities in our business, in our industry. I probably don't need to tell you that there's a lot of pressure on commissions right now, a lot of pressure on buyer side of the commissions, right? Leverage side, again, work smarter with people. The who, the systems is the how, and the tools is the what. So I think we covered all that. 4 stages of growth. This is the stage. This is the second part of MREA, where we go from thinking $1 million to earning $1 million, net $1 million, and receiving $1 million. And that's on page 44. See if there's anything else there to share. So these are the foundational models, and we'll explore them more. The next part, 6 myth understandings. So these are the 6 most identified limiting beliefs to real estate professionals. Again, coming from top producers, these are the things that they struggle with. So number 1, having a goal and not fully realizing it is a negative thing. The truth is, having a goal and not trying to achieve it is a negative thing. So none of us really know what our full potential is. That's a great question for somebody to ask. Have you reached your full potential yet? I haven't met anybody that said yes. But if you ask them what their full potential is, they don't necessarily know either. So part of this, the idea around this myth understanding is really the way you kind of talk to yourself and the way you think to yourself. If you say to yourself today, I can't do that, and you haven't even tried, how is that good for you? How is that negative self-talk going to help you in any part of your life? There's a funny story in the book where Gary gives the analogy to what if your teachers, let's say you're a parent and you have kids, what if your teachers were having purposeful conversations with your kids around limiting beliefs? Don't go to college, it's too hard, you won't make it. Don't pursue a career in real estate, because you've got to lead generate. Would you want somebody having those kinds of conversations with someone you cared about or loved? No. So why would you talk to yourself that way? That's kind of the point. So again, having a goal and not trying to achieve it is really what's negative.
Well, you never want to be your own lid, right? I mean, that's the truth. That's what you're being. If you believe those things, these myths, you're now putting yourself in a box. You're being your own lid. You never want anyone else to be your own lid. So why would you allow that for your own company?
Absolutely. We talk about status quo. You know, some people you know, status quo can be comfortable because there's not as much change. It's certainly not uncomfortable, right? Because you're not really growing anymore. If that works for you, maybe it works for you. It doesn't work for me personally. I seem to have a real drive to want to do something more, do something better than I did before. Try the real you. Most people never know who they really are, what they can really achieve because they fear to try. The real you can show up only when you try. You know, an interesting survey was done around people's desire to succeed. And the question was, the survey results boiled down to that. Let me ask you this. Do you think people are more afraid to fail or to succeed? What would you say off the top of your head? They're afraid to fail, right? The survey was completely opposite. It showed that more than 80% of the people were afraid of success, and that they were actually sabotaging themselves through some kind of limiting belief or myth understanding that success was not for them. Like even if they had the path in front of them, they were scared of the results at the other end. But it's very interesting. But you can actually start to see it show up in people's behaviors. Even when they know how to get to a higher level, they may not push themselves to get there. So it's quite interesting. Think about that. You know, I definitely have. Let's see here. All right, the other myth understandings, we don't have them all here in the in slides, but the other 6 myth understandings are, we'll just touch on them real quick. Having a goal and realizing it is not trying to achieve it is a negative thing. That's the 6th one. There's 5 before that. Let's see. The first one is, I can't do it. Until you try, you can't possibly know what you can or can't do. There's a quote here on page 51, Valerie Fitzgerald. I love some of these quotes. I had no people skills, no sales skills, and no business experience, but I was determined to make it. She's a $6 million producer in Los Angeles. Second myth understanding, it can't be done in my market. Yes, it can, but you may need a new approach. Kind of interesting there. You know, I think back to the 1990s, way back when the MLS was a phone book. One of the most first interesting, innovative things that came out was the digitization of that, which is online MLSs. And there was a company called Foxtons, and they put pictures of the houses on the MLS. This was innovation. Nobody had done it before, but now everybody's got to have pictures, Matterport and 3D camera and all this other jazz, right? But that was innovation at the time. I think Command's an innovation. I think Gary's endeavor 4 years ago, 5, whenever it started, to transform the company into a technology company, which was really aimed at giving the agents the tools they needed. We got systems and models, but we really needed the tools to connect everything. I think Command is that innovation. The interesting thing about being the first in the market also is that, and this is kind of quoted at the bottom of page 54, something that Gary personally witnessed, and I feel the same way with Command. The first person who overcomes this myth understanding actually has a unique position in the market where they're actually going to be, you know, they're ahead of everybody else. And if your competition doesn't even believe in what you're doing, then you're even further ahead than you thought. So there's even less obstacles between you and your goal. Now, the truth is that with things like Command and other things, that people will follow. People will follow, and they eventually will have something same or similar. But the goal is to stay in front, to be continuously innovating and driving those things. I'm sure when COVID came out and people had not done like virtual open houses or tours or done other things, they had to shift and pivot their business to start doing that. And there was 2 groups of agents, people that were comfortable going on Zoom and doing things virtually, and people who weren't. And I could see it in their numbers. They sat out. They sat out on the sidelines for 12 months because they weren't willing to adopt that. But the people that have now and continue to grow and build upon that, how much bigger is their business because they were willing to adopt and do something different in the market.
Yeah, don't be afraid of video.
Don't be afraid of video. Yeah, we're still overcoming some of that. A third myth understanding, it would cost too much time and effort. I would lose my freedom. The truth is, time and effort are not the deciding factors in success. As you go through and you look at this, the way MREA is built, through the systems, models, tools, leverage, all that, people are earning back their time. You're actually earning back your time as you go along and you build out these things around you. So you're not going to lose your freedom. You're actually earning it back through those methods. A fourth one here, it's too risky, I'll lose money. Risk is in direct proportion to how well you hold your incremental costs accountable to producing incremental results. Talks about green light, red light. So you invest money in, let's say you have a new marketing strategy, you're going to spend money on this. Track those numbers, hold your money accountable to its rate of return. So you're spending money on something, how many leads are you getting from that? If you go back and look over the past year of all the different marketing strategies you had, which ones produce the highest rates of return? And the other point then is, weed out the ones that don't, focus on your top three, focus on what we'll talk about more here is the 80-20 rule, where 80% of your results comes from 20% of your efforts. So there's probably only 3 marketing systems that are really, working, that are going to produce the highest returns for you, but hold them accountable. You can apply the same thing to technology. So a big piece of the reason for Command being built was that the incremental costs of technology, agents buying all these different third-party systems and stitching them together through Excel spreadsheets was getting expensive. That was another part of Command driving the cost down. We only pay $25 a month for technology. It's been the same for 20 years. We've never charged more than 25 here for tech. And it's just even bigger and better than ever before. People's the other obvious one. Leverage, hire smart, right? When you hire people, hire them, the first stage is they have to, earn the job. We talk about 30, 60, 90, success through others, career visioning and all that. So it's better to hire smart than to, obviously hire, and having to keep turning over people. But holding the money accountable to the results is really what the fourth common myth understanding is about. Number 5, my clients will only work with me. Only I can deliver quality service. The truth is your clients are not loyal to you. They're only loyal to the standards you represent. We were talking about today in Ignite. MREA was going over what's your value proposition. So what makes you unique in the market? Why do people want to work with you? A big myth understanding is that a lot of agents think, well, what they may not recognize immediately is that their clients are really working with them. It's not who they belong to in terms of a brokerage or a brand. It's them personally. I was talking to a Redfin agent this week. It's interesting. So Redfin built their corporate model around MREA and teams especially. What they do is they run a corporate team. So there's dedicated buyers, listing agents, transaction coordinators in a corporate salary-based environment. Their model's changing now. Some of the agents that have been with them for 3, 4, 5 years, what they're realizing is that their clients are not calling Redfin when they want to buy and sell their house again. They're calling the agent that sold them their house 5 years ago. Well, we already know this. People work with who they like to work with. So a lot of the ideas and models at KW is around building your own brand, your own value proposition and what you're known for. So we say we stand behind our agents, not in front of them. A lot of other brokerages you can make note of, it's about the brand and it's less about the person or the individual. So to me, that's really the point around number 5. But having good systems and models goes to that. Like if you don't have repeatable ways of delivering a quality product and service to your clients, you're not going to get the type of repeat business that you're looking for. So either individually as a solo agent, think more about that, spend more time on your value proposition, thinking about what you do well. We could take a look at that. We're going to cover it more, but it's later in sections. There's too many tabs in here. It's in the section under the fiduciary responsibility, the services, the 10 service area categories of the buyer's agent and the 10 service categories of the seller's agent. There's 2 lists in there. We could pull the figure up and look at them. We'll look at them next time. We're kind of getting to the end of today. Anybody have any questions or thoughts or comments on any of that so far? Anybody going to do anything differently thinking about that? Everybody know what their value proposition is and why people like to work with them? Sort of, right? Maybe it's something worth looking at more closely. What else? How about your lead generation systems? You feel like you have the most robust lead generation system right now, producing quality leads consistently?
On model. That's all I'm doing now.
Good, good. Lovis, how about you? Anything today you'd like to share? You've been in production for a number of years. You've been to Bold. I know you've been working a lot on your business as well as in your business.
I think a lot. I think I report a lot on, or on like I get a lot of referrals. So as far as lead generation, it's always something that I can step up. I have done some things differently recently, but I think moving forward, like I definitely like lead generation is it. I can't like live on referrals like forever. I mean, they're good to have and they come in, but
Mhm.
definitely active. There's always been a shortcoming.
Well, having a referral business is the goal, right? Like if you could build a good referral business around your database and your sphere, it's just a matter of staying in touch and following up with them, right?
I mean,
Yeah.
that's the easy thing. Like I could do that. You keep the phone calls them, but it's just like actively going after people I don't know.
Okay.
That's what I feel like.
So working on lead generation for new leads, people you haven't met yet. Okay, got it. Well, overall, is there? Do you feel like there's a mental shift here? You're starting to see the beginning of the books where it's sort of changing your mentality towards some of these things. What's that? Was there a chat? Somebody's chatting.
It's definitely worth rereading. I haven't seen mine, so I will definitely.
Steph says no.
Well, I think like, instead of focusing on what you could have done, right? Like now's the opportunity to change things how you're going forward. Right. And I think looking at the myth understandings, I always say that wrong. Looking at the myth understandings kind of forces us to identify where we might be losing sight or losing focus, right? And if you go back to that triangle, the foundational model, I think it's like worth memorizing that, if you don't already have it memorized, just to kind of like remind yourself of, the platforms that you need to follow in order to get to the, net million, right? So I think that's, as a leader in the office, like that's kind of what I'm looking at right now, based on this class is like, are we really like following that triangle the way that we should?
Right.
And are we focusing on what we need to for our agents, right?
Right.
Instead of what could have been, because I often like look at, oh man, we're doing awesome in this, and then like, oh, what we could have done.
Right.
Instead of saying, strategically, how do we get there? So I'm actually working on that now, so this is a great chapter for me personally. But I think that triangle is definitely the model that we need to kind of memorize right now, starting the book and the conversations.
Right. And just to kind of expand upon that, please understand that the market center is run exactly according to the MREA models. I don't know if you've connected those dots, but like, this isn't just for sales associates or, teams. This is how the market centers are run. We use the same chart of accounts. In the back of the book, there's a chart of accounts for the millionaire real estate agent. We use the same chart of accounts to run the market center. We run and generate all the same reports as the sales agents. And what Wendy's talking about in terms of the millionaire real estate agent, there's also the millionaire real estate market center. And so that's where the market center is also similarly earning $1 million, netting $1 million, and we're actually doing more than that. What's our GCI is maybe what, 8 million a year? So we're already doing multiples of the MREA. Now, overall volume, we usually sell around 1,000 houses, 300 million in volume, right?
Yeah, 315 million in 2020.
Right. So our goals are working towards, the next goal for us might be 500 million. So what we're looking at is office market center leadership as a team, because we're the biggest team in the office. We're looking at how we can help the agents to grow their businesses and help grow the market center. Let's say just to 500 million. So we've been up to 350 before, maybe just under 4.
We've actually been up to about 409
Okay.
in 2013, 14.
Right. So that might be like a ceiling of achievement. And now we're looking to break through, so how are we doing that? Well, it starts here today, just resharing the MREA and the 24, topics, bringing MAPS coaching and BOLD and other things to the market center, having more purposeful conversations. We've actually done a really good job in shifting our agent base from more of a buyer's side to more of a seller side. So historically, we've been somewhat imbalanced with like maybe a 70-30, 60-40 split, more heavy on the buyer side, which in a shifted market like this really can have a big impact, on the finances of the office. Well, we've actually made a lot of, we've had a lot of growth over the past 3-5 years. We're actually balanced now 50-50 listings and buyers, and we're selling our listings too. So it's another, a good 50-50 ratio with that. We definitely want to continue growing that, so there's a multitude of ways that can happen. But we're looking at, growing our businesses and helping our agents to grow together. So we're all moving in the same direction. The $1 million market center, that there are several of those. I believe there's probably about 10 in Keller Williams. So these are offices that are doing a lot of business, needless to say. But, it's a goal. It's a goal that we'd love to hit one day. It's a stretch goal, and you'll definitely see an MREA where they talk about, setting goals that are higher than what you can do. A lot of times people set goals that are honestly too low. And the difference, the breakthroughs actually come in that stretch period where, let's just say you want to double your business every year. Well, what are you going to do differently next year in the next 12 months? It's going to cause that to happen. That's where the growth comes from, where you're pushing yourself beyond that natural ceiling of achievement or whatever the last ceiling of achievement was, and then getting into the next part. What's that? Is there another chat? Amy's on. Amy Butevich said, I'm happy to share her success with the MREA models. Absolutely, Amy, would love to hear more about that. We're doing the agent panels now at the monthly stakeholders meeting. And Amy and I are actually collaborating on a couple other projects we have coming up for later this year in the fourth quarter. Looking more specifically around growth, market share, the opportunities, and bringing that information into the office for agents to take advantage of. Working with Anne-Marie and the pro coaching to look for opportunities for those new agents there, as well as other things. Working on our value propositions and what makes us unique in the market. So. Thanks for that, Amy. It's 5 of. I think we're going to wrap it up. Anybody have any further comments, questions? Okay, if you're online again, if you don't have a copy of MREA, let me know. Everybody here in person received a copy today. Bring it with you next week. Next week, we're going to do Think, the Big Why, Value Proposition, and 80-20 Rule. There'll be pages roughly 70 through 104. So if you want to read ahead, take a look at that. And we'll see you all then.
Thank you.
Thanks for being with us here today. You guys are